Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. We're very happy to have you here today, and I'd like to ask you to please stand now, if you're able, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We ask that you turn any cell phones to off or vibrate. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Harrison. Here. Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds. Here. Magistrate Hawkins.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logsdon. Here. Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the Fiscal Court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda? Second. Are there any additions? I'd like to add an executive session under real estate purchase, KRS 61.810 subsection B. Why don't we do that after the appointments of the board members there under section I.
Judge, I think it's another digit that needs to go in there.
Pardon?
I think it's another number that needs to go in that for the statute.
Okay, somebody have it?
It should be 61.810, then parentheses 1, and then parentheses B.
Oh, okay. 1B, all right. Thank you. Anything else? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now our clerk, Sheila Fair, will read the minutes from our previous meeting and listen carefully to what happened.
June 4th, 2019. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Albert Harrison, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hound, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logsdon. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the agenda, removing second reading public hearing of the proposed budget, moving to the June 18th meeting, and adding Tetra Tech presentation and adding lifeguard new hire under personnel actions. Motion carried unanimously. The meeting minutes of May 21st were read aloud and approved unanimously. Special meeting dates, June and July. Motion made by Magistrate Logsdon, seconded by Magistrate Hounds, to call a special meeting June 28th at 1 p.m. and cancel the July 2nd meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Becky Zocklin provided an overview of the recent Pick the Parks event where over 1,000 pounds of trash was collected in Oldham County parks. The next Pick the Parks event is scheduled for September 21st, focusing on Windlemore Park. Grants presentation. Judge Vogel called forward the following grant recipients to receive grant checks approved at the May 7th fiscal court meeting and to share how the contributions will be used within their organizations. Janet Warren with Hope Health Clinic, $4,500. Laura Tapp with Crossroads Pregnancy Center, $6,500. Tetra Tech Representative David Service shared a PowerPoint presentation which provided an overview of the improvements to Schambach Park at Westport, what has been completed and what is next. Operation Parent presentation. Judge Vogel, on behalf of Operation Parent, presented a short video relating to prescription drug misuse. This video and others made possible in part by Oldham County Fiscal Court's grant donation. County Administration payables. Motion made by Magistrate Hound, seconded by Magistrate Dye to approve the payables. Motion carried unanimously. Community business. Second reading, public hearing, administrative code amendment to the procurement policy. Melissa Horn presented for second reading, public hearing, proposed ordinance KOC 19-200-518, amending Chapter 4 of the county's administrative code relating to procurement code policy, and open the floor for public comment. There being no public comment, the public hearing was closed. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adopt the ordinance as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Contract agreements and resolutions. MAC construction contract for the Park and Ride project. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Dye to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the contract with MAC Construction relating to construction of the Park and Ride at Apple Patch project. Motion carried unanimously. supplemental agreement for the Park and Ride project. Motion made by Magistrate Likens, seconded by Magistrate Dye, to authorize the judge executive to sign the KYTC supplemental agreement relating to closing the design phase of the Park and Ride project and transferring the balance of design phase funds to the construction phase, as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. QK4 contract, Buckner Connector project. Motion made by Magistrate Helms and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to authorize the judge executive to sign the QK4 contract agreement relating to right-of-way services for the Buckner Connector project. Motion carried unanimously. 2019 Kentucky 911 Services Grant Application, updated CAD software. Motion made by Magistrate Helms, seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to authorize the judge executive to sign the 2019 Kentucky 911 Services Board Grant Application seeking updated CAD software for the Central Dispatch. Motion carried unanimously. Kentucky Division of Water Grant for the Curry's Fork Watershed. Motion made by Magistrate Harrison, seconded by Magistrate Hawkins, to authorize the judge executive to sign resolution number 0106419 relating to application for and administration of a Kentucky Division of Water 2019 non-point source implementation grant for the Curry's Fork Watershed Program. Motion carried unanimously. Personnel actions, internship agreement. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Logsdon, to authorize the judge executive to sign the internship agreement as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Parks and Recreation. Motion made by Magistrate Helms, seconded by Magistrate Dye, to hire Lily Angeline as lifeguard at $8.59 an hour, effective June 4th. Motion carried unanimously. Board appointments. Henry County Water District Number 2 Board, Code Enforcement Board. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Helms, to reappoint Ronald Berrickman to the Henry County Water District 2 Board with a term to expire June 15, 2023, and to reappoint Ron Kaiser to the Code Enforcement Board with a term to expire June 18, 2022. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Jerry Nart announced a groundbreaking ceremony for a new monument honoring Gold Star families at the Veterans Memorial Park of Kentucky, South Oldham High School campus, June 5th at 10 a.m. Announcements. Magistrate Tice distributed the proposed revisions to the county's comprehensive zoning ordinance relating to distilleries and barrel warehouses, which will be presented to Fiscal Court July 16th. Magistrate Harrison provided a status report on Highway 524 Bridge Project, improvements and repairs on Highway 524 and 18 Mile Creek Road. Public meeting in Westport Thursday, June 6th. In military observance days, June 6th, D-Day, 75th anniversary, June 14th, Army Birthday and U.S. Flag Day, and week of June 14th, National Flag Week. Magistrate Greenwell thanked County Engineer Jim Silman and his staff for their preparedness and participation at road committee meetings. School is out and everyone have a safe summer. Magistrate Helms announced collection totals from this year's annual Crusade for Children campaign. Fire departments within Oldham County collectively raised over $141,000. Unused prescription drugs can be taken to the Oldham County Police Department between 8 and 5. Magistrate Hawkins encouraged the community to attend the groundbreaking for a new memorial honoring Gold Star families at Veterans Memorial Park of Kentucky, June 5th at 10. Magistrate Dye announced the Lincoln Day Dinner June 14th at Udell Gardens and an increase in car break-ins. Reminder to keep the doors locked and hide any valuables from sight. Judge Vogel made the following announcements. The annual golf scramble organized by the Oldham County Sheriff's Office is June 28th at Eagle Creek Golf Course. Proceeds help support the Kentucky Sheriff's Boys and Girls Ranch, making it possible for deserving children in Oldham County to attend a week-long camp at no cost. A group from the Ohio River Paddlers Program is making an 8-day trip down the Ohio River from Portsmouth, Ohio to Louisville to promote outdoor recreation. They'll be stopping in Oldham County over the weekend, camping overnight in Westport. Sympathies to the family of Charlie Tice, a longtime LaGrange resident who recently passed away. A proclamation recognizing the 100th birthday of Vivian Maxine Stewart Dahl was read. Motion made by Magistrate Helms and seconded by Magistrate Dye to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously. The meeting was adjourned at 3:52 p.m.
You've heard the reading from our last, minutes from our last reading. Is there a motion to accept?
Second.
Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Time now for public comment. That's our time during the meeting when anyone who has come to address the fiscal court about a specific issue in their neighborhood or the county is able to do so. Is there anyone here who would like to address the fiscal court at this point? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public comment and go on to the first presentation at today's meeting. We have several different presentations regarding budget and tax rate for public agencies. The first presentation today will come from the Ballardsville Fire Department. We'd like to welcome Chief Steve Fonte.
Thank you, Judge and Magistrates. The Ballardsville Fire District Board of Trustees established a 2019 tax rate for real and personal property at 10 cents for each $100 of valuation, and a tax rate on motor vehicles and watercraft at 10 cents for each 100 valuation, which is the same tax rate we've had for the last several years. As far as our estimated income and funding, we have an estimated income for the 2019-2020 budget year of $703,805.53. That's monies from Shelby County and Oldham County both, according to the PVA. Again, it's estimated. That's Oldham, Shelby, all grant monies that we're expecting, interest income, and then the KCTCS monies we get for state aid and state incentive. We have $302,265.30 in reserve funds, and that's in the form of a CD we keep. And then on the next is actually our budget. There's not really much difference from last year. We did take out the radio. There was a big expenditures we spent for the radios in the county. The only major expenditure we actually added this year was $40,000. We're still trying to get our Station 2 finished. So other than that, our total budget is $766,600 for this year.
All right, are there any magistrates who would like to ask the chief any questions here about the Ballardsville Fire Department? Magistrate Hounds.
I just want to make a comment, and some of the magistrates don't know this, but Chief Fonte is part of a small group that is taking on the initiative of not only providing leadership in the hazmat realm, but also in other technical services. And I hope that we're doing this for nothing, but as you and I have had this discussion before, we're preparing for the what if, and along with other chiefs, Chief Turner and Assistant Chief Parker and Jerry Nart and a few others in the EMS world, we are preparing ourselves for that what if, and thank you for the forward thinking for working on that project.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Magistrate Greenwell.
I have two departments within my magisterial district, LaGrange and Ballardsville. I was a member of Ballardsville for 10 years, and both of those are excellent departments, just typical of what we have in this county for fire protection.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, well, things,
was gonna ask,
Magistrate Tice.
and I probably missed it, but I don't see what the revenue is. I see what the,
Front page.
Yeah. I just typed out, its estimated income revenue is $703,805.53.
First page in front of it.
excuse me, thank you.
Not a problem.
Magistrate Dye.
Just out of curiosity, how much of your coverage is Oldham and how much is Shelby? What percentage?
Very small portion is is Shelby County. We go, and I don't know exactly, we have 42 square miles total. I can't tell you exactly what part of that is Shelby County, but if you follow 53 all the way out to Hinkle Lane, where they're in the sharp curve, I guess where 322 shoots off, we go all the way to Hinkle Lane, up Hinkle Lane to Dover, and then kind of a straight line over to Hannah. So we have a pretty good portion of it. It's all very rural at that part in Shelby County. Our income in Shelby County is about $40,000
Okay.
annual.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is that in the form of taxes?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay,
Same tax, I submit the same tax rate to Shelby County.
I see.
Chief, about the state of your engines and your equipment,
Our newest, so obviously, we're trying to get Station 2, and there's not an abundance of funding for that. Our newest truck, or our newest piece of equipment is a 2005. That's why you see we do a lot of money for maintenance. As soon as we like to save, we saved for our Station 2 for about 10 years, saved up half that money. So as the tax rating, or not the taxes increase, we save a little more as much as we can. But we're still trying to get Station 2 finished. I don't know, a lot of you know our chairman died. He was chairman for 35 years almost.
right, David Manley.
Dave Manley, yes, sir. So one of his wishes was that we get Station 2 done. He was very passionate on that. So we're trying to do a little bit at a time as we can afford. But all of our trucks are in great shape. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not overloaded with miles, and were very tedious about their maintenance. So, and our newest truck we just purchased is actually a 94 we bought from Oklahoma, and that's about an $800,000 piece of equipment. We spent right at $100,000 for the truck and all the equipment involved. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But we're staffed very well. So 2 engines and tanker at each station, 2 brush trucks. So we're still well equipped.
About volunteers, all your staff is non-paid, is that correct?
No, so I'm full-time paid, and then I've got part-time members that work 8 to 5 Monday through Saturday, and then we're volunteer on nights and Sundays. And then of my part-time staff, several of those, probably about 80% of those guys are members of the department, live in the district, so they'll make what we call off-duty runs, but basically it's a volunteer run. Instead of getting a flat fee, they just get their hourly rate.
I see.
So and we're right around 40. I mean, volunteers are honestly, it's harder to keep volunteers just because today's society is so busy. So, I mean, we're having troubles with that you see it all over the country. So, but we're keeping our head above water with that.
Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. Chief, just for everybody's edification on this, I think I know the answer, but so many times we don't just see a fire engine, we see a fire engine and an ambulance and a police car. So all 3 of those are connected somehow, and I think you get multiple calls and you have more than one reason to go. I mean, you handle a lot of emergency response,
We do.
more than just a fire.
We do. So, any auto accident, you're going to see police, fire, and EMS responding to the same thing. We make EMS assist, which is we assist EMS depending on what the situation is. If it's an unknown or a overdose, thankfully we don't have a lot of that going on in the county. But fire department responds. We stage for police on those incidences also. So, we respond, and a lot of times you'll see a command vehicle, which is one of our pickup trucks with a fire engine. If we can get there a little quicker, the fire engine will respond, and then they kind of stay in a available status, but they're there. If we get another run, they'll respond to that also. But so you'll see quite often a lot of runs, the police respond with us, and most of the time, even if it's a fire, police are there generally and to help out with traffic control, and an EMS is there for standby for us in case there's a victim in the house or one of the firefighters actually has a medical emergency also.
But you are part of a response team, even though there may not be a fire at the scene at that particular time.
Correct.
That's a comfort. Thank you.
We work with the police and EMS quite frequently.
All right, thank you, Chief, for being here today. Continued success and good wishes for your organization.
Thank you.
Our next tax presentation today is from the Environmental Authority District. Art Henson is here today. Welcome, Art.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having us again. We're here today to ask for the approval of our budget for the fiscal year July 1/19 to June 30, 2020, and a continuation, in parentheses, of our current rates, which is, I'm happy to say, is our budget provides for enough revenue to fund our operations and to provide for our minimum debt service requirement of 1.1 to 1, and we're able to do that maintaining our rates at the current level. So I'm sure everybody's glad to hear that the rates will stay the same. I guess one real reason why rates are staying the same is that we've halted all of our construction activity because of the letter of intent that's been signed with MSD. So we've put real major construction on hold. We're not doing any borrowing for new construction. The only construction, if you want to call that, is continued maintenance. That's part of our agreed order with the State of Kentucky Division of Water. So right now we're into Confederate Estates and Country Village doing pipelining to keep untreated water, groundwater, rainwater out of our system so we can not have to treat that kind of service. So we're just signed a contract for $900 and some thousand to do that pipelining. So that will require new borrowing, but that payment schedule won't occur until the next fiscal year. So this fiscal year, we're kind of just in a holding pattern. We've got enough revenue to fund operations, keep everybody going, and to maintain our system as the way it should be. We also, if our revenue does happen to fall short, we just recently collected a very large tap-on fee from the subdivision that's going in at exit 18 at I-71. So that was a little bit over 300,000 that came in the month of March. So that's going to provide us some revenue reserves for this coming fiscal year if something happens that our revenue estimates are a little bit short. But I think we're pretty good with those. We're trying to be conservative, so I think we're in good shape at this point. So with that, I'm happy to say no rate increase, just the budget that'll maintain our system, and we hope that you all will approve that for us.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Henson?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Harrison?
Thank you. You brought up MSD. Would this be an appropriate time, if you could, comment on where we are in that timeline with what they're doing in conjunction with the letter of intent?
Well, as far as the board, we just get an update once a month when we have our board meeting, and the last update was they were doing their due diligence, and as far as I know, that's where we stand.
All right, thank you.
I could add that we have agreed with MSD, Art hadn't heard this yet because it just happened last night, to extend the discussion period until September 1st. So we're continuing to talk with them, and Horace Herod is the OSEA chairman.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right. Moving on, the next presentation will be from our Oldham County Health Department. Health Department Director Teresa Gamsky has joined us, and nice to have you here today, Teresa.
Thank you. Good to see you, sir. Good afternoon. I provided in your packet a few documents for you to review. The Oldham County Health Department, or the Oldham County Public Health and Tax District contribution will remain at 2.5 cents of $100 of the assessed property values. What you will see in your packet is the first budget is of the taxing district funding, and then what I provide you secondly is how that taxing district funding moves into the health department operating account. So I've provided you an overview of that budget as well. What you might want to note as a matter of information this year is due to the Kentucky pension crisis, our contributions into the pension and retirement system went from 49% of payroll to 84% of payroll. So for the first time in our existence, our fringe benefits are at a higher cost than our personnel cost. So in order to accommodate for that increased expense, we have gone through several different measures to stay within our budget, so to speak, and I'll review some of the items that we have adjusted to manage within that budget. As you know, in public health, our biggest asset and our largest expense is our personnel. The only way we can cut back on expenses is through those personnel costs or decreasing programming. So at this point, what we have done is we are now sharing some of our expertise and personnel with other health departments. We have two positions, our registered dietitian and our epidemiologist, that we're contracting with North Central District Health Department in order to save some funding from there. We're not rehiring in vacant positions immediately due to attrition like retirement or resignations. And then the state has given all health departments across the state the option to scale down certain programming. So FY20 or in this year, we will start that transition of scaling down the Kentucky Women's Cancer Screening Program. Hopefully we'll be assisting a community partner in delivering that program. And then we'll, as we have retirees in that area, we will scale down the family planning program, which is a federal program. And those programs are probably one of our two most expensive programs, again, due to the personnel costs. In the future, we will contract for staffing outside of the Kentucky merit system, which Frankfurt has now given us permission to do so. And we will continue to actively go after grants, as we always have. We have a federal drug-free communities grants. We have numerous tobacco cessation grants. We have grants from partners like Metro United Way, Early Childhood Council. We work with the Curry's Fork grant program as well. Additionally, I have provided you a document that shows how our structure is going to change. And what this means for us is next year, if you can look on that graphic, it says core public health. Our foundational services are expected to be funded within 1.8 cents of our taxing district revenue, and we're very encouraged that we will be able to compensate for that. Additionally, the other programs in the next column, WIC, HANDS, and substance abuse, will be funded by other revenue sources. Of course, WIC is a federal program, which we receive allocations for that. HANDS has various funding sources which operate that program. In substance abuse right now, we're funding that through types of grants. I will go over just a few of those, the 5 foundational public health services, just to kind of reorient you of where we are refocusing and prioritizing. Population health is a broad term, but population health encompasses that every 3 years we complete a community health assessment. Of course, substance abuse has been the #1 issue in our community over the past 9 years. And this includes the misuse of drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and currently we are in the midst of an e-cig epidemic starting in middle school and through high school. So we are very much at work addressing that with our community partners. We also have marijuana legislation pending for FY20 legislation that we'll be working on those issues as well. But within that lens of population health, what we look at are the social determinants of health. What are the factors in our community that help someone be healthy and discourages someone to be healthy? The first thing is education. Early childhood education is a real focus for us. We have done assessments with our education task force, which includes the superintendent and the school system, and what we found is we have a gap in services in early childhood. So through the grant from Metro United Way, we are now doing developmental screenings for children starting basically at 2 months up until kindergarten age. Our numbers are good there. About 70% of our kids are ready for kindergarten, but we're trying to ensure that we have the infrastructure to support that continuing success. We now know that the first 2 years of development are the first important years of those children's lives, and so we want to make sure that we're providing the infrastructure and the services for those families. Access to health care, we're pretty good in our community. Whether we have access to health care within our community, we have Hope Health, and then we also have quite a bit of access to health care services in Louisville. Access to healthy foods includes the choices that we make every day, what we choose to eat, fast food or good food, and also the food banks that we have established in Oldham County. We'll provide you a handout of the latest information we do have. We currently have 5 operating food banks in the community, and I'll provide you with that information. Also, our built environment, our transportation access, walking, biking, connectivity from one community to another is extremely important. Our neighborhood development, and what we know now that our poverty rates are very high along the 146 corridor. Families in poverty struggle with those issues of transportation, housing stability, school attendance, and food access. So we are ensuring that those services are available to all families. And the last not least is access to meaningful relationships that makes us all a well-rounded, healthy person. We're ensuring through our community organizations and churches and faith-based community that we have especially our seniors taken care of and resources for them. Moving on to enforcement and regulation. Of course, we have a lot of laws regarding immunization. Our environmental laws, Changes, we will have some changes to the environmental fees. This year, the state is opening up all those environmental regs. They're due to sunset. And so there will be major fee increases for some of our local businesses in this coming year, mainly to restaurants, hotels, pools, and on-site septic system services. So many of those fees, or most of them actually, will be out of our control, and so we'll be monitoring our community and our local business environment for the impact of those fees on their services. Third is emergency preparedness. We are part of ESF 8, Essential Services Function 8, within the emergency management response, and we also have an emergency management planner within the health department system that works with emergency management here in Oldham County. Communicable disease control is definitely one of our priorities. This year, Kentucky's experienced the worst hepatitis A outbreak in our history. The immunization laws also changed, ironically, this same year, which requires all school-age children to receive 2 doses of the Hep A vaccine. So that has been quite a challenge to manage both of those reg changes and then also respond to the outbreak. We are currently now preparing for measles. We have had 2 measles cases in the Bowling Green area. We believe those cases were contained due to the family had traveled overseas, and so we will be diligently watching our communications come August when our summer season is over and our families that have traveled abroad come back to our community. And the fifth, of course, is just the admin structure. We are responsible to deliver several federal and state programs and to maintain a qualified and trained public health workforce. So with that, I will answer any questions I can.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
What is the current status of shingles vaccine? I'm hearing about a 2-step vaccine, and it's fairly costly, but I didn't know if you all had that available.
Yes, you would need to call the health department. That is a certain product from a certain vendor. I'm not sure what we have on hand right now, but as far as shingles shots, because of the way that vaccine is distributed, like so many doses in one vial, we tried to compile a list of people who want that vaccine, and so no vaccine goes to waste. And once we have it, we'll give you a call.
Is
So-
it a 2-step, and there's somebody back there who got their hand up back there?
You know, she orders it, she knows.
Yeah, I ordered the vaccine, just so you know, the
Oh.
when I ordered the vaccine, they put it on an allocation, so we're restricted of how many doses that we can order, and we currently just get brought in a 10-dose vial. So if you're interested, as she said, call the health department, there's a waiting list, once we get 10 people, because we don't want to.
Okay.
Good question, though. Those combinations are always changing, for sure. Any other
Do
questions?
you want to repeat that? I'm not sure that the microphone perhaps picked that up. You'd have to come on up to the front and,
This is Dee Yance. Dee is our financial administrator, our personnel administrator. She does facilities and basically anything else of the health department that you need.
I just wanted to clarify, the makers of the vaccine have it on a allocation status currently, so we're restricted on how many doses that we can order at a time. So we recently just purchased a 10-dose, and so, as Teresa mentioned, there is a waiting list. So if anyone was interested, you need to call the health department, get on the waiting list, and when she has 10 people wanting it, then she'll administer it.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Judge.
Magistrate Harrison.
Hi, Teresa, thank you. A number of boards of health across the state seem to be on the endangered species list, according to the news media, and I guess some of that may be true. Apparently, we're not on that. How do we stay off that list? I mean, what do we have to do here to make sure we do have a board of health?
Endangered from the aspect of being engaged or not able to fill those seats? What, do you know what?
Well, I thought it was a financial consideration. I don't know what the formula is, but
The Board of Health is our governing agency, right below the Commissioner of Public Health in Frankfurt. We've been very fortunate to maintain a full Board of Health. We currently have one vacancy for a dentist. One of our dentists moved out of the county. You have to live in the county because you're managing taxing district funding. So we do have one vacancy. I'm very pleased with our Board of Health. They've been very, very engaged and responsive. So we've been able to maintain a full Board of Health. There's no compensation for their service, just their time. We have several.
I think he's referring to the financial challenges that some boards are
okay.
not able to pay the increased cost for the pension service
Gotcha.
and are going out of business or
Absolutely.
consolidating.
Absolutely. I do have a map I'd be glad to send you. There's about 15 to 20 health departments that will be at risk for bankruptcy by the end of this year. The end of year 2, it'll go up to about 44 health departments. Right now, the Department for Public Health is trying to manage, they're in crisis mode, trying to manage that, offering those entities availability of loans to continue operations. If not, ultimately, the services delivered at the local health department are the responsibility of the state.
No, my concern is, are we at risk here in Oldham County if that happening to us? We're going to lose you and your people.
Not at this point. Right now, we are managing, our budget is designed this year at the 84% rate, and we're able to manage our operations even within that expense. But like I said, we're doing all the cost-cutting measures and savings that we can, going forward, as we have been for several years.
All right, thank you.
We did allow the health department 2 years ago to raise the rate from 2 to 2.5 cents.
Yes, sir.
And that has brought in additional revenue that wasn't there previously. So without that tax increase, the department would have its back against the wall and maybe have to cut more staff or cut services.
Right, and Judge, that speaks to our strong tax base here, so I appreciate your efforts to attract and bring commerce into our community. Our services are essential. We see like these failing health departments across the state, their tax base, they might be at the maximum of 10 cents, but that 10 cents does not accumulate enough funding to provide the services that they're expected to provide. So we're in a good situation here in Oldham as long as our tax base stays strong.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. This 2.5 cents per $100 on that's real property, personal property, motor vehicles, that's not an increase, is that correct?
No, it's not an increase.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no further questions, I'm going to read a resolution here now that is required. The health department is required each year to get a resolution from the fiscal court approving whatever the tax rate is that is presented. This resolution is then forwarded to the Commissioner of Public Health that indicates that Oldham County has agreed to the rate. A resolution authorizing the levy of a public health tax in Oldham County, whereas Kentucky 212.750 creates a special taxing district for public health in all counties in Kentucky, and whereas KRS 2.2.755 permits the Oldham County Board of Health to resolve in favor of an ad valorem public health levy, and upon the approval of the Commissioner of the Department of Public Health, to request that Oldham County Fiscal Court include said levy with the county ad valorem tax bill, and whereas said Oldham County Board of Health, having so resolved to impose a tax of 2.5 cents per hundred of assessed property value, and the Commissioner for the Department of Public Health, having approved said tax, and the County Board of Health, having made its request to the Oldham County Fiscal Court for imposition of said tax on the county property tax bill as a public health tax. Now therefore be it resolved by the Oldham County Fiscal Court that the court approves the Oldham County Board of Health for a public health tax of 2.5 cents per hundred of assessed property value, and that shall be included on the ad valorem tax bill for the county. And this resolution becomes effective upon its passage according to law on today's date, January 18th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You can get this later from Sheila. Our final presentation today regarding public tax budgets is from our Tourism Commission. And Kim Buckler Hides, recently married in the last year, will be presenting, and welcome, Kim.
Thank you. I feel like you all have seen me more this year than in previous years, so some of this will be a repeat, I'm sure. As a commission, what you have is our budget. There's not a whole lot of difference from last year, but as a commission, a tourism commission, there are 3 tourism taxes: a transient room tax, a restaurant tax, and a convention center tax. And in our case, the only tourism tax that we have in this county is a transient room tax. That's collected from all the hotels, now 5, as of last Thursday when Holiday Inn opened. That's the bed and breakfast, and that is, as of March last year, all of our short-term rental properties from Airbnb and VRBO and the online rental companies. There wasn't a huge difference in our taxes as a result of short-term rental, obviously, because that's only been 6 months, and half of that month was wintertime, which is really slow with our accommodations. So there's not a whole lot of difference. Our tax, how we figured it for this upcoming fiscal year is based on, and how we agreed to do this a couple years ago, is to take the tax collected from the previous fiscal year, divide that by 12, and that would be our monthly amount that we receive for the commission. Because the month tax for that current month isn't due until I believe it's the 20th of the next month. So in order for us to have an operating monthly budget, that we now have to upload to the state auditor's office. We're in SPGE. We take the previous year, divide it by 12, and that's how we come up with a monthly amount. So with what you have there, your budgets on the standardized form, our tax that we're bringing in is $141,600, and that's based on keeping our monthly amount the same as it is now. We went through 3 different amounts this last fiscal year trying to get it all straight, and how we ended it was at $11,800 a month. So I just carried that over for the next 12 months, so that comes to $141,600. Our matching funds is our only other real income, and that is a match from the state. It's a reimbursement on expenses if we participate in state co-ops. So obviously our marketing plans are based on that, because that's where we can recoup some of what we spend to do other things, more advertising than what we have a budget for. So we do that in 2 rounds, 2 times a year. What we spend July to December, we file for matching funds in February. So we'll get that usually March, April, and then expenses from January to June, we file in August, so that second check doesn't come in until the next fiscal year. So a tourism commission is a cash-based accounting. So with that check going into the next fiscal year, we change the way we figure our matching funds. One of the things I started doing a couple years ago was putting together group tours on our own through the Tourism Commission. We do credit card processing now. So we can do motor coach bus tours. So we're the only one in the state that puts those packages together for motor coach companies, and that includes everything from their attractions, all their meals, anything they do aside from accommodations. They obviously pay the hotels directly on all of that because of all the different taxes that are attached to that. So aside from that, what that allowed us to do is each person who comes in on a bus, if they go through us, we can make sure, number one, they spend 2 days in the county, and we can make sure that they hit the whole county and not just one thing that might only require them to stay 3 or 4 hours instead of 2 days. So obviously, our businesses in the community make more money the longer they stay. So they might just pass through and want to eat, But now, if we get them here at least 2 days, the average motor coach bus is $120 to $148 a person. And you're talking a motor coach bus of 35 to 62 people. So that averages $120 to $148 per person extra. So going on that premise, we were able to provide our restaurants and our attractions an additional $7,500 in income in this current fiscal year, just doing that. And they love it because their people on the bus don't have to bring 10 checks with them. They pay us in advance. Our attractions and restaurants in the county love it because they're paid for that in advance. So they can use it to hire additional people. So group tour packages, we figure on 5,000. That's pretty easy to do. Obviously, our checking account. We'll probably have a carryover of around 5,000 by the time we get the June tax check, which is normally a week or so after this meeting. Personnel, we have one full-time person, and that's me. That cost of me didn't change any. Operations for us includes a lot of detail. Obviously, being a marketing and advertising agency, our operations are a little bit different in how you might see other organizations. Really, there's not a whole lot. You know, our advertising and printing, luckily with our budget, we're able to take our matching funds and do more marketing and advertising than we would normally be have the funds for. So you're talking 74,000 of our budget we spend in marketing and advertising, our attractions and restaurants, which is what our purpose is. So we spend a good chunk of our budget on that, 11,000. One of the things that we are doing this time is we've gotten so big as an office as far as responsibilities and programs we've developed and all of that, that we've this year outsourced some of that without going over on our budget. So 11,000 we have in professional services. Our utilities, you know, our internet and phone is all we have. Rent and lease, we have a storage unit that keeps boxes of brochures that we ship out, and our building, we only pay $500 a month for rent, and that includes all of our utilities. So our lease is a good amount for our budget. You know, material supplies. Our SPGE fees, $250 based on our taxes that we collect. You also see under administration, our grants and donations we give every year to the History Center does a historic marker, bronze marker for a designation each month or each year. And those were $2,500 and they've gone up to $3,750. So you'll see that reflected there in grants and donations. We have a money market that we try to put a little in, but our job is to spend our money on marketing and advertising. That's what we do. We have a money market of $12,000 just to cover anything that we need. Software subscription, obviously, a lot of that's done online, so that's really it. Not a lot of major changes.
Right? Pretty much it's your budget, all right? I know you're making it go as far as you can, and you're doing an excellent job in attracting people to Oldham County and getting them to look around, see what we have here, and enjoy in our facilities. And also, you're trying to enhance our facilities with more things to do and more attractions to bring people here. So we're happy about that. So anybody have any questions for Kim they'd like to ask? I think we're all pretty familiar with what you're doing, and so, right, I thank you for being here today and giving us this detail.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the sheriff's property tax settlement. Laura Parsons from the Sheriff's Department.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to get the approval from the board for the 2018 Sheriff's Property Tax Settlement broken down into each individual districts. As you can see, the first page covers what the whole county itself brought in. And then behind that is broken down to every single district, what they collected for the whole total year. We actually brought in, the official receipt from the state before taxes were mailed out was estimated at $76 million. And we actually collected this year $79 million before the distribution of commissions and discounts. And a lot of that money came in we had additional bills and franchise bills, and then more brought in this year, than last year on the increased assessments. So that's where the $3 million difference came in different from the original receipt that we brought in. And then we did have less, which is really in our favor, less delinquent property tax bills for this past year, and less decreased assessments, which a lot of that can come from either less homesteads or property adjustments, that type of thing. And I think a PDA actually also had, they had different assessments for neighborhoods too, so that helped increase some of the property taxes that were collected. Is there any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Magistrate Hounds?
Yes.
If I read this right, it's $360,000 is the total delinquent tax number for all districts?
No, yes, 360,000.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of it. Then you have to go with delinquent. It's broken out to tangibles and just personal property. And then the executive orders decrease. So really it comes to almost maybe right around 400 and some odd thousand.
Okay.
Okay?
Is that up or down, or do you have a scale?
It's down.
It's down
Yes.
considerably?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is. Any other questions?
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Pardon? All right, I need a motion here to sign this. Is there a motion that does accept this?
So move.
You have a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our budget transfers. County Treasurer Melissa Horn will go over those.
Today, I'm asking for budget transfers in the total amount of $433,925. I anticipate also coming to you at our last meeting in June with additional budget transfers. And again, it is a requirement from the state that we not overspend any budget line item. So these transfers take excess money from one line and give it to another line that is perhaps in the red.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions for Melissa on this readjustment? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Payables, the bills, item B there. When you're ready, we'll take a motion to do that.
Judge, I'll move we pay the payables.
Second.
All right, any discussion on anything in the payables here? Seeing no one, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we're at surplus property, and I believe Melissa will go through that.
Today, I'm asking you to surplus a police vehicle. It's a 2018 Explorer. Was involved in a single vehicle accident on US 42, and the CAECO claims adjuster deemed it a total loss. So we will surplus it to salvage with your approval and receive $24,943 for it.
there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we surplus this vehicle for 20, how much did you say it was? $4,943. Any discussion on this?
I assume our officer wasn't hurt, or we would have heard about that. So everybody's okay, aren't they?
Yes, right. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our bill is the second reading for our public hearing for the fiscal 19-20 budget. Before we consider that, I would like to make a few remarks. By statute, the proposed budget was submitted to the Department for Local Government and approved by the State Finance Officer. This budget, if approved today by the court, will go into effect on July 1st. County government is in good financial condition. Our reserve is stable, and our credit rating is the highest possible for a county government. The budget being presented today does not include a tax increase. County government has about 60 sources of revenue, ranging from property tax to rental income for picnic shelters in our parks. We live within our means and have for the last 12 years, and our intention is to continue to do so. There has been no increase in the rate of property tax or insurance premium tax for the past 12 years. Property tax has been decreased twice, and there is no anticipated increase in taxes in the foreseeable future. The total budget for our county government for this coming fiscal year is $40,649,000. About half of this money comes from local sources that we refer to general fund revenue. The balance of the funding originates with other county agencies or with the state or federal government. We've sought to continue to seek financial aid from public foundations for certain things as well. Outside revenue includes funding for roads, public safety, health and sanitation, stormwater management, and other services. Fiscal Court has multiple capital projects underway. I'm not going to go into deep detail on each project, but over the next few years, these projects will appear and be part of the increased services and quality of life in our community. The past legislature allocated $23 million for expansion and renovation of the Oldham County Courthouse. The original part of that building was constructed in 1871 or 1872, and it was updated in the mid-90s. By statute, a group known as the Project Development Board was formed at the end of last year and has been meeting to manage this project. A Lexington architectural firm, Sherman, Carter, and Barnard, has been hired to help us. By the second half of 2022, we expect the Oldham County Courthouse will be remodeled, and a new three-story addition will be built on the west side of the property, replacing the former county jail. Construction in downtown LaGrange is certainly going to interfere with traffic on 2nd Street and parking on Main Street and in the county parking lot on Main Street. Now, people are asking me about this on a very frequent basis about what this disruption is going to be, and I don't have an answer at this time, but we are working with the architects, and we're going to hire a construction company soon, and my promise is to keep 2nd Street and the county parking lot at 2nd and Main as accessible as possible. But I don't have the answer at this point. We all know that free space for a construction office and equipment is limited, so it's going to be unlikely that everyone's going to be satisfied on how things turn out. And there's probably going to be a degree of dissatisfaction for about 2 years. But fixing and remodeling, upgrading our courthouse in the center of our city is much preferable to building it somewhere out of the downtown area. By this time, I'm sure that many people are aware of the 3 or 4 major traffic improvements that we have planned for the county. In LaGrange, these improvements include widening for both the north and the south off-ramps on I-71 at exit 22. Engineering work is underway for widening the southbound ramp, and the situation, we hope, will be improved by the end of the year. This is intended to help as many commuters as possible get off I-71 as soon as possible. Some mornings there are extensive backups in the emergency lane heading northbound. Planning is also underway for the southbound ramp off at their Stockyards Bank and McDonald's, and I believe that is going along well, and I don't have an exact time frame on that, but progress is going to happen there soon. New ramps have also been approved for the new exit 20 at the Louis Dampier Bridge. Construction will begin next spring and take about a year to complete. Other important transportation-related projects include widening US 42 in Prospect. We've been on this for a long time. We're not giving up. We're waiting for utilities to be moved by LG&E. And we apologize for the delay for those people. We're doing everything in our power to try to advance that project. There are 2 rail passes planned, and the extension of Commerce Parkway into the Mattingly Office Park is going to get off the ground very soon. And of course, there's I-71. Now, we're doing all we can to try to move the widening of I-71 up to the Henry County line, move that up on the state road construction schedule. Like everything else, money is the issue, but all state employees from the governor down who are involved in transportation are acutely aware of our problems here and the high number of accidents we have and the dissatisfaction that we've expressed repeatedly on how slow our expansion is going in relation to other projects in the state. We've been heard, and the State Transportation Cabinet has tried to consolidate projects a couple of months ago with Gene Snyder, and is moving as fast as they can go. It seems extremely slow when you're not involved, but there are many, many details involved in every step of a transportation project. Now, I've asked Oldham County Police to step up enforcement on I-71. Other than inattention and speed, there's nothing we can do until this thing's widened out to improve safety. So far, we've written 631 tickets on the interstate this year. There have been 124 accidents. Now, within the next week or two, county police and the LaGrange police are going to further step up enforcement on the interstate. We're asking people to slow down. If we get a Georgia or a Florida reputation for a couple of years, so be it. Issuing tickets, slowing people down, getting attention far exceeds having one of our friends, relatives, or children be injured on that road. The widening from the Snyder to Crestwood is expected to be finished in, I believe, 2023, and we're working hard to get the additional steps out to Henry County. Another project I'd like to discuss involves expanding and improving broadband services in the county. Some residents have great service now, and others have very poor service or no service at all. The state's Kentucky Wired project is now passed through Oldham County. Our building was just linked to Kentucky Wired as of today. Fiscal Court approved purchasing an additional, I believe, 26 miles of county-owned fiber optic cable. We don't expect to get into the transmission service beyond that ourselves, but we are going to be working with entrepreneurs who are going to spread this out into as many parts of the county as economically feasible. And we hope that bringing additional service providers to the county will lead to new service, improved service, and lower cost service for people who live here now, because AT&T and Spectrum may back their prices down when they see someone else taking business. And we hope to be able to generate additional revenue for the county through the expanded service. A small addition is going to be put on the Methodist Church building next to the Fiscal Court building. for storage of broadband and other materials. It's expected that some of these services will be housed that some of the services now housed in the county courthouse are going to move over to the Methodist Church building and the former Tice Furniture building as the courthouse expansion gets underway. Another significant project includes discussions with Metropolitan Service District regarding MSD acquiring the Oldham County Environmental Authority. At this point, our conversations have to be confidential by necessity, but I do want to say that the objective of this is the long-term relief rate for the Oldham County ratepayers, and our discussions are going very favorably at this point. We're also working toward opening 1 or 2 roads in Oldham Reserve. We're working with an engineering firm and landscape architect to make significant improvements at Schambach Park in Westport as well. The county government has 12 departments. The greatest number of budget dollars, $4.3 million, goes to fund our police department. We currently have 41 authorized officers, including 9 working as school resource officers. Resource officers are in the school during the school year, and some of them work a normal patrol shift during the summer when school's out. Others are available for backup duty anytime during the summer and anytime during the school year if needed. The Board of Education is providing school year funding for our school resource officers. By necessity, most of our outline of the county budget involves dollars, bricks, cents, mortar, cement, and talk about construction and physical improvements. But the true state of our county is also reflected in the activity of the residents who live here. There are many wonderful activities throughout the year to support our children, families, handicapped individuals, recreational activities, people suffering from addictions, senior citizens, mothers with babies in their arms or on the way, and much more than I'm able to recognize here today. One thing for sure that I'm very proud of our county is the great number of residents who volunteer and step up time and time again. I'd like to thank, in particular today, all the residents and the command staff and workers at our fire departments in Oldham County for their efforts a couple of weeks ago in raising $138,000 for the Crusade for Children. We're proud of everyone who participated in this event. Since this is the second reading of the budget for the coming year, in a moment I'm going to open the floor for comments in favor or in opposition of adopting this budget. However, first I'd like to ask Magistrate Dye, Chairman of the Finance Committee, if the Finance Committee has a recommendation.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, we do. I'd like to make a motion that the court approve KOC 19-220-519, the annual budget and appropriation for fiscal year 20. But I would like to make one other comment. The Finance Committee, myself, Magistrate Greenwell, and Magistrate Hounds, we worked several days and several hours with not only the judge and the deputy judge, but also the different staff members of the county. We worked with the financial geniuses we have here, Stan and Melissa, and without everyone rowing the boat in the same direction, we wouldn't have gotten this done. It's the largest budget number I've seen since I've been here in 9 years. And it went rather smoothly. So again, I make this motion to allow the judge to sign this.
Second, Judge.
Our budget has been moved and seconded for fiscal year 2019 or 2020. Is there any first of all, I want to have the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor or in opposition of this to this budget? Would you please stand if you do? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing, and now I'll go to the magistrates for any comments or questions they may have. Magistrate Likens.
Judge, you read quite a bit there. Our rate is .087 for this year.
No, I think our rate is 9.2, isn't it, Stan? What is it?
No, it's point, 8 point.
.087, all right.
And I believe when most of us started 8 years ago, it was higher than that. So we're actually lowering.
Right,
our,
we've decreased this tax rate twice.
Yeah. This is the second time we have reduced our tax rate.
Well, we're not reducing it today, but we have reduced it twice in the past.
Right. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Commissioner Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. I've been on the Finance Committee 3 different times, and you learn a little bit more every time that you're on it. And I do believe that our counterparts in Frankfurt and Washington, D.C. would be, it would be their advantage to come watch us compromise and come up with solutions and agreements and not agree to everything, but agree to most everything. So anyway, it was a work in progress, and it was a good work. So I'm pleased to support this.
Thank you. Yes, this budget's a team effort. Everybody here works together. We try to be as collegial and cooperative with each other and work to understand each other's points and what each person on the fiscal court would like to see in the budget and how they'd like to see our services addressed, maintained, and provided. So I appreciate everyone sitting here. Are there any other comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Judge, I have a second motion to go along with this.
Yes, sir.
We also have a part of the budget process, we have a portion of it, it's called the standing orders, the recurring expenses. These are things, just to make it simple, it's like the light bill or the electric bill that comes every month. We don't see that in the payables because it comes, we pay it, it's like automatic. So I'd like to make a motion pursuant to KRS 68.275-3 to approve the listing of pre-approved recurring expenses as presented in this budget for the judge's signature.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we pay the standing orders. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the County Road Aid Cooperative Agreement for fiscal year 2020. We have this, each year comes from the state, and this year we have, our amount is $653,526.96. This is your state dollars that come twice a year. It's cut in half, basically. Half the first and half for the second part of the fiscal year. We use this each year to pave roads, and so it's a routine thing, but we need to approve this agreement.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to allow you to sign the resolution for the County Road Aid Agreement.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions about it? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll do the Integrated Engineering Services Contract for the Park and Ride Project. Belinda Demas from Planning and Zoning will review that with the court.
This is an agreement with Integrated Engineering for construction administration and inspection services for the Park and Ride at Apple Patch project, not to exceed $160,000. Integrated Engineering with WSP as their subcontractor was assigned to this project by KYTC as part of their rotation of pre-approved consultants for statewide projects. We are using federal CMAQ and surface transportation funds for construction of the Park and Ride project, which requires on-site daily inspection and observation. We have sufficient funding available to cover the inspection services in addition to the cost of construction, and we are using toll credits and a land donation to match the federal funds. We are asking fiscal court to allow Judge Vogel to sign the agreement.
Make that motion, Judge.
Moved and seconded that I sign this agreement with Integrated Engineering Services for construction and administration services at the Park and Ride at Apple Patch, in the which is now called Pillar, but for the purposes of this
Yes, they have
project, we're
the
continuing to
Apple
call
Patch
it
has changed
Apple
their name
Patch,
to-
just to
to
keep
Pillar, yes.
everybody who sees this paper from being confused, in the amount of $153,900. Anybody like to comment or question? All right, we're very anxious to get this project completed. And, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Parks Committee, the Tetra Tech contract Phase 2, Schambach Park at Westport. Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. To the best of my knowledge, all the items in Phase 1 have been completed, and the court should have received by email from me the geotechnical results and report. That was the last item that was pending. So now we've got consideration for the next phase, and you should have received that also, showing we're going into tree inventory, land and river surveying, environmental surveys, concept development, and program management. And it's more the sequential pattern that we started when we first got into this several months ago. And each one of these steps is dependent on the step before it. If something falls through and doesn't produce the results we need, it's pretty much going to stop the project. But right now, we've got no red flags and no speed bumps even. So we're planning on moving ahead with it. I would make that in the form of a motion that authorizes the judge to approve this extension on the contract, or however they want to call it. I guess it's just an extension on the contract we had in the beginning for some total of $29,000.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we have this, continue on with the step 2 here of the Tetra Tech contract. And this is for $29,000. The work outlined here is habitat assessment, consultation services. We have muscle survey, concept development, program management, so forth. It's in the,
Judge, the muscle survey is not included in the 29,000. Because we don't know yet. We have to find the muscle survey. If they're down there, then we get into the survey.
have to determine if they're there. And
Yes.
then do the survey.
And everybody pray and cross your fingers they don't show up.
Is that the same for the bats?
No, we have to see if the bats are there. All that does is affect the timing of the construction. Because you can't do anything with the trees if we got bats until October.
Okay, but it says bat and mussel habitat assessment. So we don't know if there's bats there yet, and we don't know if there's mussels there yet? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, but we do know there were a lot of bats in the barn we tore down.
Okay.
There's a good chance there are bats in the area because I've not been bitten by a mosquito since I've been down there.
All right, does anybody have any, Magistrate Hounds?
Magistrate Harrison, you made a statement that we don't have any speed bumps, and I guess, I don't know that I understand that comment, because isn't the unknown speed bump the Corps of Engineers?
I don't know how to define it. I mean, the issue with the river,
Yes. I mean, that could,
well, if you want to be negative, we can say that is. But what we've done so far is not revealing anything. The river revealed itself. Nothing we've done through Tetra Tech has indicated there is a speed bump of any kind or a red flag. Mother Nature and the Corps of Engineers threw us one by raising the river and then lowering the river and then raising the river and then lowering the river. It makes it difficult to design any kind of wall at the river's edge without knowing what the river elevation is going to be. So I guess you could say that's a speed bump. But it may have saved you a lot of money.
I will agree that it's not a speed bump through Tetra Tech, but it is a speed bump for the project.
It's another consideration we did not know we were going to have to make. I'm not trying to parse words with you. I don't know how to classify it. If you want to, you could say it's an insurmountable speed bump, and kill the project. We don't have an answer for it yet. I don't think anybody on the river's got an answer for it.
And I guess, go ahead, I'm sorry.
We have got marinas up and down the river with boats sitting at their dock and in their boat slip and cannot move because of the massive silt that came in. We've got boat owners trying to get boats into a marina and they cannot, but they can't move because of the silt. So it's not just our problem, it's a river problem. And hopefully there's going to be enough attention brought to it up and down the river that somebody's going to do something. A lot bigger voices than what we have.
Measure die.
I'm gonna be straight up, I'm not gonna support this for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think the Corps of Engineers is, we're gonna have to get a better handle on what they're gonna do with the water and the silt. There's another situation here where it says, under concept development, it makes reference to it says create water edge concept development for cost estimation purposes for facilitating stakeholder understanding, stakeholder being Oldham County, understanding the options of hard and soft river edge treatment. Help facilitate a decision on waterfront river connection strategy. Reaffirm or revise the 2015 master plan to which current stakeholders accept. Services provided by Bravura Architects as subcontractor Tetra Tech. If this means the Bravura rendering that we got in 2015, that was never, ever given the thumbs up to do. I've looked at the Bravura plan, I've looked at the park with this water thing and the silt thing with the Corps. We don't know how much of that park we're going to be able to use until that's decided. I think that this whole, the tree study, I don't quite understand why you have to inventory trees until you have a plan of what you're going to build where, so some trees are going to be taken out. So why would you want to pay them good money to inventory a tree with a GPS and all that other stuff it said, when it ultimately will come out? If you look at the Bravura plan, it does not have a lot of existing trees there. So this, to me, I'm not against doing something positive at the park, but I see this as the second step. We've got $40,000 into this. We're going to another $30,000. The court has spent over the last 8 years about $600,000 on 7 partials, just to get the green space that we have now. Again, I think that this needs to be looked at. We need to have some answers from the power to be. And I forgot one important other party is the Division of Water. I'm on the Oldham board. We had a situation there with Pond 5. We had to dewater it and recreate a stream. You all have heard me tell this story. It was about $400,000. It didn't come out of taxpayers' money all out of Oldham County, but taxpayers somewhere paid either at a federal or state or local level in some combination. I do not want to go back through that kind of a headache again, not knowing exactly what these people want from us, chapter and verse in black and white. So that's why I can't support this.
Where does the division of water fit into Westport? I'm confused. I don't think we have any ponds, I don't think we have a lake, and I don't think we have any streams. We've got a river, but that's under the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers, not the state.
Well, if they'll tell us that they don't care about that, then that would satisfy me. I don't want them coming in at a later date and saying, oh, by the way.
Who being they? The Division of Water?
The Division of Water. Yes.
What part of the park do you think they have jurisdiction over?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. Do you know where you're saying that it couldn't? I'm not debating this with you. I don't want to get into that. I'm just saying, I'm just one vote here. I'm not trying to kill the deal, okay? I just want an assurance that the money is going to be spent wisely and in a frugal manner. I'm not trying to say we can't do things, but I've seen where situations have gone where, well, maybe we should have had a little more information. Well, that information I have found out, like dewatering a pond, you would think that would be simple. Well, it wasn't simple. And so that's my point, and I think that we need to look at this because if we end up, if the silt problem doesn't go away, how much of the park are we not going to be able to use downstream, down the road? Because, well, do we want to build something and have to clean silt off it every 2 or 3 weeks or months or years or whatever it is? I don't want this to turn into a maintenance problem too. So that's all I have to say on the subject.
You ask a question, can I answer that without a debate?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no silt beyond the tree line.
Today,
We haven't seen storms like this in 100 years. So I think there's a pretty good indication of where the silt is and where it is not. That's all we can go by, Bob.
I understand that, but if we would have progressed 2 years ago with this plan, some of the stuff that we would have built would be covered with silt today.
I don't believe so. I don't see anything on there that shows it.
Well, again, we have a disagreement. I respect your right to disagree. Respect my right to disagree, okay?
Well, respect my experience and my professionalism too, Bob. Thank you.
I've never denigrated your experience.
I just did. Go ahead.
Measure Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. I guess I'm alarmed a little bit at the raising and lowering of the river, and I understand it's probably a part of the flood protection process.
The Corps has no flood protection. They're concerned only about navigation of the barges. That's all.
So do they raise and lower the river level because of that?
Yes. It's all the way up the river. It's not just between McAlpine and Markland. It's the entire reach of the Ohio River.
And they've raised it or lowered it now? Is it lower?
Well, compared to what? It's higher now than it was 3 weeks ago,
Okay,
but it's lower than it was 2 months ago.
all right. I mean, the Corps of Engineer can do whatever they want to because they have nobody reining them in. And so if they say, we think we need to lower the river, then they'll do it. And then that'll put us in a different spot than if they had left it the same all the time.
It could, but people who have been in Westport for 15 to 20 years or more have never seen this phenomenon. We don't know what caused it. We're still trying to find out.
And it's the siltation you're talking about?
It's a siltation. You can actually see it from aerial photography.
See, siltation should have been a lessening problem all along because with the advent of no-till farming, there shouldn't be near as much siltation as there was 40 years ago. And I don't know if this is from new construction or what it's from, but from the agricultural standpoint, there shouldn't be near as much as there used to be.
One so-called expert told me that the streams and creeks that are tributaries to the Ohio River were the primary reason for all the silt. Well, I challenge somebody to go to 18 Mile Creek and Patton's Creek, which are the two largest creeks we've got down there, and show me where the silt is. They're both rock bottom creeks, and have been. There's nothing down there but rock. There's no silt in them. There's no dirt in them, so I don't know where it's coming from.
I don't either.
Magistrate Hounds.
I struggle with this because we have had a lot of talk about what our, I don't know if vision's the right word to use, as to what the end result of the park's going to look like. The bravura rendition that is some 4 years old seems to be not where we're going. I'm making an assumption. I could be wrong. But I'm struggling with trying to understand some of the engineering work that we're doing if we don't have a plan. And I understand that some of this has to be done or should be done before we put a plan. But I would think we could do a conceptual agree upon a conceptual drawing of something and then do some of this engineering. Because if we're not going to disturb, if our conceptual drawing says we're going to use what I'll call the green space today of the park, and we're going to build a, for lack of a better term, not amphitheater, a picnic shelter or a pavilion, and I consider a picnic shelter to be this size and a pavilion to be this size, much, much larger, then do we need to do some of this other work with Tetra Tech, because we're not going to get into the water's edge? You know, we're going to stay up on the green space. I do understand, yep, if we build it, what I call the green space, it has the potential of flooding. I understand that. I think anything you put on the river has potential of flooding just because of the river being there. But I still also am concerned with what the Corps of Engineers is going to do. Is the Corps of Engineers, because of this silt problem, and I don't understand it as well as Magistrate Harrison does, but are they going to end up having to raise the river level because of the amount of silt that's in the river for navigational traffic? And if they have to do that, where does that put the river up on our property? Does it move the river up? And do we lose usable property? I don't know the answer to that. And that's, if somebody knows the answer, great.
The channel is on the Indiana side of the river at Westport.
Okay?
You can't shoot a rifle and hit a barge from Westport.
Okay?
It's that far over. That is the channel. That is the shipping lane. That's what they keep open.
Understand, but if would they have to raise the water from the Indiana side to the Kentucky side, or however you want to look at it, to keep that navigational channel open?
No, that's what they dredge.
Okay.
They
So
will
the-
dredge to keep the barges moving. That's commerce, interstate commerce.
Okay, so the dredging the silt that you're talking about is more for recreational traffic than it is for recreational traffic.
But just for us, just for the park. Same as it is for all the marinas up and down the Ohio River. They'll be dredging only for their boats at their location. Maybe 100 feet out into the water. We're trying to figure out to get somebody to tell us how much draft do you want to have for a boat? 4 feet, 6 feet? If you dredge, you don't want to dredge enough to park the Belle of Louisville if you don't need it.
And are we thinking that we would be responsible for doing dredging in the future?
You would be 100% responsible for any dredging. But as I said earlier, people who've lived in Westport for 20-plus years have never seen this problem, so we don't know.
And I understand, and I mean, you know, Magistrate Greenwell can speak to the farmer issue. I have a farmer that leases some land from me, and he's right. We haven't seen anything like this, the rain and everything else. Farmers struggle with getting the crops in the ground. To pick your weather forecaster that you want to pick, when they're all telling us that we're above the same, we've got more rain this year at the same time we had last year. So we're already increasing our rainfall, and we're not even, we're getting into the dry season, I would think. But point is that I guess, is this now the new normal that we're going to have to deal with? And we don't know the answer to that. I mean, we don't know what Mother Nature is going to do going forward. I struggle with what the issues that we don't know yet from the Corps of Engineers, and I understand that we may struggle with getting those answers. But what I don't see in here is, I don't see the word Corps of Engineers in this project description at all. And I think that that's a bigger piece to the puzzle than doing a survey, than doing a bad assessment, and doing a concept, architectural concept. Because if the Corps of Engineers shuts us down, we're done.
Where did the idea of the Corps of Engineers shutting us down come from?
Well, I don't know that I would say shutting us down. That's probably too extreme.
How
But
far out in the river does the silt go?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. That's why we need to do the river survey. Because you look up and down the river in places where there is an old wall at the river's edge, they don't have the silt. Why is that? We've got the silt where there are docks. Why is that? We don't know. How much silt is there? We don't know. Does it only go out to where our dock is and then drop off the channel? We don't know. I got more we don't knows than I do knows.
Okay, but it's my understanding that the Corps of Engineers is going to have to approve anything that we do down there, correct?
They approve anything in the water.
And the water's edge.
They have jurisdiction up to the ordinary high water mark on both sides of the river, which is about where the tree line is. So we would have to do any dredging, anything like that, we'd have to get a permit. To build any kind of wall down there, whether it's a 2-foot wall or a 20-foot wall, we got to get a permit from the Corps. Well, we have to know what we're going to build in order to apply for the permit. They won't give you a permit that just says, let us do something at the river. What was the contract extension we did just a few minutes ago with Integrated Engineering Services? What's the difference between that and Tetra Tech right now in Westport? None.
Say that statement again, I'm sorry.
We just approved a contract for Integrated Engineering Services. Preliminary planning, concept planning. There's no difference between that and what we're trying to do at
Oh,
Westport.
yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I already know what the concept of what that's going to look like. I already know what that park and ride's going to look like. I've already seen renditions, and we already know the space it's going to take up. I mean, to me, those aren't the same. They have some similarities, but they aren't the same.
What about the extension of Commerce Parkway to Mattingly? Do we know what that's going to cost? Are they doing preliminary work on it?
I've been told there'll be a preliminary budget given to us on a design for that project. And Magistrate Dye, we had that conversation several weeks ago after an Oldham board meeting. That project's not going to just be dumped on us without a design, a preliminary design.
Are
We
there
may
any
have to pay a couple $1,000 for it, okay?
Are there any bridges involved?
You're asking,
Culverts?
you're asking me a question I don't know.
Ramps? I mean, no,
I don't know.
everything involves preliminary. Many of you sitting up here, you want us to go from nothing to something and say how much it's going to cost. I don't know how to do that. And I've been in construction most of my life, which is quite a bit. You can't do that. You have to take these baby steps, these preliminary steps first to get to that. Or else we're coming in for a change order every 30 days.
Magistrate Tice, did you have a question?
Being part of the committee and being in the meetings that we've been in, 6 of them, et cetera, and trying to figure out what we want to do with Westport to make the park a little bit better. And we've kind of been going that direction by acquiring property, and now we're at a point where we have enough property and we're going to try to figure out how we can make it a little bit better. I think there's a lot of disagreement on, and I was asked this question, well, where am I on this? And I said, well, in a ruler, I'm between a 1 and a 12, and I'm about a 3. You got to know what the goal is, and I understand the frustration with some of the other magistrates on that. But we found out, in one sense, what Albert says, I agree with. We got to know a few things. Maybe we need to back up and not try to know everything throughout all of our properties, but maybe we need to be more concentrating because of the new information we've seen, which is very confusing, and I'll go to that, is maybe we just need to restrict or confine what we want to find out down on the river's edge. Let's talk, from wherever the river's edge back 20, 50 feet. One of the conversations, and part of all this started with Kevin Eldridge being on the Parks Committee and serving with him, is that he would like to see our Westport become better. And he's a boater, so he understands all of that. But what's happened in the last 2 years is with the new normal, if it is, we got a problem. Yeah. But we've had excessive amount of spring weather, and now, if you talk about this year, I mean, we're having an unbelievable amount of rain. It's probably raining out there right now. But that's changing things. Now, where does the silt come from? One of the gentlemen at our meeting the other day said that we're on the outer rim of the curve. So if you take anything in a bowl and you spin it, it goes to the outside. So if this water is being released upstream at more of a massive rate than this is speculation, okay? Is it's being released more at a higher rate than we've ever seen before? Is it stirring the bottom up and sending it out to us? I'm just trying to put it on something small that we can visualize and that could be affecting our grander scheme of where we are today. If we have to dredge on a regular basis, I think it shocked us the other day at the meeting, but we can't afford to dredge. To me, that kills the deal. Talk about something that kills the deal. If we have to dredge on a regular basis, then in my mind, what we look for is what do we do on the river now that eliminates dredging? In other words, whatever type of treatments do you have that would, what would the landscape be from the water's edge back? And we were talking in a committee a minute ago, and when you look at Westport Village, which is right down from us, their landscape is all different. They have no trees. We have a bunch of large trees right on the river edge, much less up in the park, but let's just talk river edge right now. And they don't have a lot of wood laying all over their property where trees have, not our trees, but the ones that have floated down the river. So, and that's all talk. I'm not sure where I'm going with that other than just trying to convey knowledge to everybody on the court here that we've seen as 3 or 4 of us in our committee. If we continue with this, I think we need to look at what we're trying to, look what we can do, not trying to do. What can we do down on the river's edge? And would that be feasible? And especially from the meeting we just had the other day, and drop back and maybe restructure where we are. That's kind of a thought. And Stephanie, Ms. Hawkins is on our committee also. Maybe she'd like to throw something in there, and if you don't, that's fine. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus or anything.
No, I won't.
But if you've got anything to say.
I have an opinion, yeah.
Yes.
Chris had a question. too.
Magistrate Hawk,
Do you want to go first?
Well, I have a statement. Would it make sense to find the person who we need or have a representative from the Corps of Engineers come to our meeting, the fiscal court meeting, and ask questions of them?
I'm not sure, and I see you looking at me, so I'm going to try to answer, but I'm going to have
No,
to,
I'm not.
but I'm
I'm
going to have to
looking
go
that
to
general
Albert
direction.
for a little bit of help. Isn't under our contract with Tetra Tech, aren't they having meetings with the Corps? Aren't they responsible to be talking with the Corps and not us? Or yeah, your thoughts on that?
Their contract under Phase 1 was for them to have a meeting at the site with the Corps of Engineers, not continuing meetings with the Corps of Engineers, but the initial meeting to show them on the ground what we thought we wanted to do, and that was when the water was up, not down, and to see what constraints, if any, they might put on us. And that's what we did. That's what Tetra Tech did. We got a whole new ballgame now, so.
Do we have documentation of that meeting with the Corps of Engineers where they gave us a green light?
I don't think it's a green light or a no green light. If we decide to go forward, I think they're going to tell us what we got to do. That's what they've been doing on the Oldham Reserve from square one. If you silt, if you remove if you dredge, fine, you can or not. You do it. You're going to have to do it every 2 or 3 years at your cost.
How do you know that?
That's what was said at the meeting.
No, that's what one architect said, every 2 years. And everybody's focused on that. Eldridge focused on it. Now you're focusing on it. I'm sure Stephanie has. One architect came up with that harebrained idea. Said every 2 years. But he can't back it up with anything. I would take an engineer over an architect in a heartbeat.
Excuse me, I'm a layman. I'm not an architect nor an engineer, but neither one of those guys are sitting in the meeting and they say, you're probably going to be doing it every 2 or 3 years. You know, I'm not, that's what I heard. And if I'm lying, I'm dying, as they say. But isn't that what we heard?
I heard one of the Brevier guys talk about if we had to dredge, it could be every 2 years.
That's all I said. I'm trying to take some information that only the three of us know and put it out here on the table. I'm not, just so everybody has an understanding. Judge needs to
Please,
call it.
please keep in mind that architects don't deal with land. That's an engineering phenomenon. That's an engineering expertise. If an architect does anything with land, he's allowed to do it as part of an overall project where he's putting up and designing a building. He can do site work for that. But to use them, and use an architect to tell us what we can do with the ground in Westport, they are not licensed to do that. They're not qualified to do that, and we will never ask them to do it. That's why we've got Tetra Tech in there. The only reason we got the architects in there, in case we build something. That's it.
And-
Brett can comment on that. He's licensed.
All right, I'm trying to, Magistrate Hawkins asked for the floor. Ahead of you, do you still have a question?
Regarding I just wanted to explain the land and river surveying a little bit on this scope of services. And that was because, from what I understand, the last survey was done in about 2006, and since then, many pieces of property have been acquired. So to have a design, it would be really nice to have an accurate, updated survey of the land that the county owns. And so that, anyways, just to explain
That part of this?
that part of it. Mussel habitat is still on this first page, so I think that we would have to scratch that. Wanted to make a note of that, since we weren't doing the mussel survey in this contract, if I understand that correctly. And I wonder too, if the rest of the court would be comfortable doing a couple of these preliminary things, like the bat survey and the land and river survey, which is going to go quite a bit of a ways into the river, 100 feet from what I remember from last Tuesday's meeting. And get those done, and then take that information and next time maybe agree on the concept development part of this contract, which was about 7,000 of the 29,000. I'm wondering if the court would rather do a couple of these other preliminary things first, have that information, which would be the information gathered from the first Tetra Tech contract regarding when they drilled holes and told us that we could or could not build, which came back we could build something on it, because they assessed they went 70 feet down on one part and 30 feet down in another part. So that was determined. The second round of the contract would help determine more of the river part. And then maybe next time, after we have all of this gathered information, we can move forward with the concept, which would consist from between now and then, getting more of an opinion of what the people in Westport would like to see there, taking all this information and understanding what we have to work with. The tree assessment will be helpful to know if there are dying trees or trees that are in danger of falling and hurting somebody. And that would also help with the design. So if we did all the preliminary things first, and then maybe come back next time asking for approval to go ahead with the concept after we have all the preliminary, what we can, what we can't do, probably talk to the Corps of Engineers in the meantime as well.
Okay, these things are all put together as one cost. How, do you have a breakout on what the various components of the cost are?
Yes.
Do I have it?
I think it's estimation, so I don't know. So when I say 7,000, maybe Albert could speak more on that.
You have that?
We have it.
Judge, I do, but you've got a motion on the floor with a second. If you're going to start changing what's in the motion, I think you have to vote it up, vote it down, start over again.
I'm not sure. I think we can amend the motion.
Without my consent.
Let's all try to stay on the same page here. We start getting, playing hardball.
Judge,
it's
we're
gonna-
not on
it's
the
gonna
same
go down.
page.
Well, we got disagreement here.
Yes, we do.
We have unhappiness, we have at least confusion about what we've got.
Absolutely.
I think if we need to back up and get everybody on the same page, or if things are moving too fast, then let's recognize that.
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to weigh in a little bit. I've worked on the Ohio River on a old lock number 50 in 1981, where we were supposed to put in a boat ramp. When we put in this boat ramp, it turned out to be in 1 foot of water because of the river had silted full, where the Corps of Engineers had drawn the plans. So that river changes every year. There's sandbars that form. Next year, there's a channel. I just wanted to say that I would like to see a future plan, because maybe up on the board, and we could look at what that park could be and what it can be, and I would be in favor of kicking this back to committee for more information at this point.
I mean, we've got, as I'm hearing this, we have requests for technical services on one hand that I believe Tetra Tech thinks that we need to keep going forward to work on the bank. But I think I'm hearing people say, "Hey, I'd like to see what the concept of the park might be minus the bank." Is that correct?
That's what Michael said.
I mean, what are we going to have up there if we fix the bank? All right, and I think in the beginning, there was some, a discussion about should we start from the outside and work toward the river, or start from the river and work back? After that was, let's say, sorted through or discussed for a while, it seemed like the idea that emerged was to start from the river and work back in to the park. Now, the condition of the river is throwing a monkey wrench into some of that thought, I believe, because I'm still sitting here confused. The last time I was down there, we had a lot of mud. Are we back up with water toward the river now, or toward the bank now? Is the water
Water's
risen?
at the base of the trees,
Okay, and the docks are,
underwater,
they're underwater?
again.
Okay. So, and is that the result of the Corps of Engineers, or is that just nature?
That's Corps of Engineers. They regulate the elevation of the river.
So they're doing this with the dams. So, seems like we, need to know what their plan is, or if they have a plan, or if they're always going to be doing what they're doing. Am I getting incorrect on that?
Yeah, Judge, I forgot to say, we had to move the whole ramp upriver 1.5 miles. We moved the whole project because they didn't know that the river was silting in that location.
I agree with Magistrate Hawkins here that some of the, at least it seems like part of the request within the document here are things that could be valuable knowledge to pick up regardless of what happens in the future, if you're on the water's edge or in the park. Perhaps if we want to take a vote up and down on this and back up and have a recommendation to just take parts of this and go forward at this point until the fluctuation of the river is throwing a lot of confusion around here, plus the fact that there's a desire to see what's going to be up in the park, a sense.
And Magistrate Harrison, you just made a comment that the Corps changes the river, right?
Correct.
If tomorrow they say that the channel, the navigational channel, is not deep enough to handle the barges, what are they going to do?
Dredge it.
No, they're not. They're not going to dredge the river tomorrow. They can't act that fast. It's the Corps of Engineers. They're going to raise the water, right?
I believe they monitored on a regular basis.
Okay, so my
They were doing
point-
it back in 1961 when I worked for the Corps of Engineers.
Okay, but so my point is that the water that we see may be changed by the Corps of Engineers on an irregular basis to have an open navigational channel. Is that a correct statement?
I don't know if they're doing it for an open navigational channel. I don't know why they do it. Their primary focus, their only focus, they've told us, is navigation. They don't care about fishing, they don't care about Westport, they don't care about Louisville Boat Club. They care about their channel for the barges. I'm not sure of the statement about we get the silt on this side of the river because of whatever. I'm not sure about that either. I mean, that's what was said. But I think we need to go back and look at where we started this in October. I wish Jim Irvin and Belinda were still here, because they wrote up the request for qualifications, and we put it out. And we had 4 firms that answered it. They sent representatives in, and a large group of us, some magistrates, some not magistrates, interviewed and listened to their presentation. And we ranked them, we rated them, just like, according to Jim Irvin, that's what we've done on every county project. And Tetra Tech, far and away, was the leader in that. That's how we chose Tetra Tech. But you know what the scope of the work was? A river wall and a promenade, period. Now look where we are. I mean, we first started calling it, what did we call it? Seawall. We called it a seawall. And then it got down to a river wall. And some people wanted a 20-foot high wall. Other people wanted maybe a terraced system. We don't know.
And that goes back to my comment about the conceptual of what it's going to look like. You know, maybe the tide has changed, that the wall's not an option, or the wall's not what we're thinking about doing going forward. Maybe we've changed, maybe after educating this process with Tetra Tech and the unknowns, in my book, the scope of the project has changed.
Well, then we need to change Tetra Tech. You don't need Tetra Tech for what all of you are describing. You don't need their expertise. You don't need their experience. You don't realize what you've got with Tetra Tech, and I cannot get you to understand it. You got the best of the best here in Oldham County, fooling around with a 10-acre park in Westport. And you want to micromanage what they're doing and tell them how to do their job. Because that's what we're doing. We're sitting up here passing judgment on something that hadn't even been done yet. I wasn't here in 2015 when he came up with that drawing that just died. I don't know why it died. I don't know where it came from to start with. But that's all we've got, that's a picture to show anybody. And we've asked Bravura to massage that and make some changes in it, which they're willing to do under this next phase. But before I could sit here and agree to any changes in this next phase, I got to call time out and go back to Tetra Tech and let them take a swing at the ball and see what they want to do. I can't change their scope of work, not when they've submitted it in this format. You don't realize how big of a company Tetra Tech is. They have got so many rules and so many layers and so many documents that have to be signed and approved and read by attorneys. They make us look like we're just on the street. That's why they can't just go out and grab somebody off the street and here, we want you to climb that tree and see if any bats up there. Their subs are approved by the home office on a recommendation, I believe, from this office. They can't just go out willy-nilly and hire anybody they want to hire.
I don't think anyone is calling the merits of Tetra Tech and what they do. I mean, I think they're very well respected. I think what I told you earlier in a conversation was, I don't have experience with Tetra Tech like some of the other people on the court do. And your expertise, and I think when we were talking about Tetra Tech before, that whole side of the court was very positive towards Tetra Tech, and I have the utmost respect for the court. If the majority of the court believes that Tetra Tech is the right person to use for the project, I'm all in.
They never said that. That statement has never been made. Only statement's been made is we like Dave's service.
Okay?
Nothing about Tetra Tech. There's a difference. Service is a top management employee of Tetra Tech. And part of the reason I asked Dave Service to make the presentation he made at the last court meeting, he did exactly what I asked him to do. Because I was trying to get this court to understand the experience and level of expertise that Tetra Tech brings to Oldham County, and it fell flat. Y'all just saw a bunch of pictures and didn't like it. And then some of you had to come see it 2 nights later and still didn't like it. So I don't know.
Magistrate Dye.
I think what I heard a minute ago is what really gets to me more than anything when, Albert, you said that the Corps of Engineers doesn't care about Louisville Country Club, doesn't care about fishing, doesn't care about, I guess, recreational boating. I don't think you use those words, but you may have. They're worried about the navigation, getting the barges up and down the river for commerce. That's the part that bothers me. We make an investment in this. Would you take those marinas that you mentioned earlier? They've already made the investment. Now they can't get the boats out, and they've got to dredge. They're stuck. I don't want to get stuck. I want to have a fair understanding that the money is going to be spent in an equitable and frugal way, and maybe what you've got down there is the best it's ever going to get, and maybe it can be improved and be a gym, whatever. But I am still concerned about we have this huge unknown that you can go out there and say, well, how much sand's in the water now and all that. That's all well and good. You can dredge it all out, and we don't know. It may come back next week. That's the problem I've got. I do not feel comfortable spending the county's money on something when I have absolutely no guarantee that it's not going to get wasted at the get-go. I just can't do it. I won't do it.
That's fine, Bob. There's no need to get mad at me about it.
No, I'm not mad at anybody.
Got a motion on the floor, vote it up, vote it down. You vote it down, we start over again, give a different scope of work to Tetra Tech, see if they want to do it. Or maybe we don't even need them at all. If you don't want to do anything on the river, don't do anything on the river. Do everything up on the dry ground.
None of those are my decision. That's our decision as a group.
Can I call for?
Magistrate Tice.
Can I call for the question? Can I call for a vote? Let's vote.
All right, Magistrate Tice calls for the question. That means we're going to stop debate, and we're going to take a vote on whether or not we're going to stop debate. Clerk, call the roll.
What are we voting on, the question or the motion?
We're voting on whether or not we're going to stop talking about this. Then we'll vote on the measure if we do.
What are we going to vote on? What are we voting on?
We're going to vote now on whether or not we're going to stop talking about this. Then if we, no, he's asked to stop debate. We're going to take a vote on whether or not we're going to stop debate.
All right.
And then if we do stop debate, then we will vote on the question. Okay. Sheila?
Magistrate Dye?
Yes.
Magistrate Logsdon? Yes. Magistrate Tice?
Yes.
Magistrate Harrison?
Present.
Magistrate Likens?
Yes.
Magistrate Greenwell?
Yes.
Magistrate Hounds?
Yes.
Magistrate Hawkins?
Yes.
Judge Vogel?
All right, motion carries, judge abstains. All right, motion carries 6-8. Now the question on before the court is, are we going to, we've had a motion and a second to approve this Tetra Tech contract.
Excuse me,
stands.
Judge.
Pardon?
You said motion carried 6-8. You might want to correct that.
Excuse me, 6-9.
No.
No,
7-9.
No.
What was it?
7 to,
Pardon?
7-1.
Don't count it.
Well, it carried, we had 7 votes in favor of stopping,
7-1-1.
regardless of what the other, 7-2.
Well, 7-1-1 or 7-2.
Or whatever.
Can't agree on that, right? Can we?
Whatever. 7 people said they want to stop talking about this at this point. So that was the majority. Now we're here to discuss going forward with this contract as presented. And I guess considering the course of the discussion here, and I'll ask Sheila to call the roll again. You all understand this is whether or not we approve this contract at this point.
Magistrate Tice?
No.
Magistrate Harrison?
Yes.
Magistrate Greenwell?
No.
Magistrate Likens?
No.
Magistrate Hawkins?
Yes.
Magistrate Hounds?
No.
Magistrate Logsdon?
No.
Magistrate Dye?
No.
And Judge Vogel?
Yes. Motion is defeated, 6-3. Send this back to the Parks Committee for further review. The next item on the agenda is has to do with personnel actions, and the first personnel action under H, subsection 1, is to the reappointment of Melissa Horn as county treasurer for a term that would continue till 6/30/2023. I'm happy to make that recommendation.
Second that, Judge.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Let's hurry up and get her before she quits.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a new hire, Russell Fuller, for the Oldham County Police. Mr. Fuller is a lateral officer, base rate $24.50. And he will participate in the county employees' retirement plan upon date of hire. And that's, or on 7/2, that is.
Judge, I'll make a motion, we hire Russell Fuller at the base hourly rate of $24.50.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Question.
Question?
Question?
Where is he transferring from?
And Ms. Schaaf will answer the question.
Coming from the University of Louisville Police, he has been there for 13 years.
He's been at U of L for 13?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep, as a sergeant. He's a sergeant now.
I see.
All right. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The next, I have board appointments here. I have 7 board appointments. Rather than just go through this repeatedly, I'm going to suggest that we take all 7 at once. If there's any question about any one of these individuals, I'll be happy to withdraw that for discussion. All right, well, let me read them off here. Where's Mike? Okay. Oldham County Environmental Authority, reappoint Horace Harrod. Pewee Valley Fire Protection District Board, reappoint Rex Florence. LaGrange Fire Protection District Board, reappoint Gary Bricken. Westport Fire Protection District Board, reappoint Rachel Murphy. South Oldham Fire Protection District Board, a new board member, Mark Gardner. North Oldham Fire Protection District Board, Randy Shear, reappointment. And reappoint at the Ballardsville Fire Department District Board, Doug Wingert and Mark Osborne. Now, Magistrate Logsdon?
I'll second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on?
I got a question.
All right.
How did you get Horace Harrod to get back in this?
How did I get him to continue on?
Yeah.
Well, he thinks that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Did you twist his arm any?
Bob should have listened earlier, shouldn't he?
Yeah, did you twist his arm?
No, I didn't. Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I just have a procedural question, whether we can consider all 7 of these, there's 7 different people on 7 different boards, and group them into one motion?
We'll ask Mr. Tate Combs, our board attorney here.
It's all right if it's what you wish to do, and as long as everybody has an opportunity to discuss any individual person that's been named on one of the respective boards. I don't see anything wrong with it, but I understand that if one of the magistrates wishes to do them one at a time, and the chairman feels that that's appropriate, then fine too. I don't have a problem with it. As long as you've got an opportunity to discuss any one of the 7 individuals.
I don't see this to be any different than hiring 12 people for the pool. We don't take them one at a time. I mean, these are all volunteer positions, and
Right.
Anybody else, does anybody want to, are you just asking a procedural question, or are you requesting that we take them one at a time?
I just want somebody to rule on it, that's fine.
All right, I think, we're okay. We've done this many times in the past. All right, did we take a vote on that? No, no votes yet? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Time now for, we were mentioned earlier, going into executive session here at this point to discuss potential real estate purchase under 61.810 subsection 1B. Yes, sir. We can, I mean, pardon? I didn't see anybody here I thought might want to make a public comment, but is there anybody here who would like to address the fiscal court before we go into executive session? I don't expect this to take too long, but, and then we'll come back out to end the meeting, but anybody like to speak to us before we go? All right, we'll close public comment then and take the vote on the going into executive session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Judge?
carries. Yes, sir.
Did we miss the discussion part of the motion?
Did we discuss, do we need a discussion to go into executive session?
Well, I object to it. I want that on the record. I don't think it's appropriate under the circumstances we've got. And I don't think the listed exceptions under 61.810 cover what we've got.
Well, you don't know what I'm going to talk about yet, do you? So how could you say it's not covered?
All right?
We've got a motion. If the motion is to go into executive session, it's not any different than any other motion. Judge, you need to have.
All right, do we have a motion?
Then you call for the question.
Do we have a
and vote on it.
second? Yes. Okay, now we'll have discussion. Now we'll take the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Those opposed?
All right, one opposition.
Nay,
All right.
thank you.
Hope you didn't break it.